welcome to my channel. My name is Dana, and today we're going to bake a cake that's a little bit different than your average cakes we bake today. It is homemade, it's not from a mix, and it's not a glorified mix, it's just an old-fashioned recipe that came out in 1972 in Southern Living magazine, and it's called Hummingbird cake. And I'm not sure if you've heard of that before, but there's a lot of vintage cakes out there that I used to look at the recipes and think they sounded so good and I'd like to make those. I look through the magazines, the cookbooks. I'm kind of like my dad in that way. He likes to look through cookbooks and read recipes. And hummingbird cake was one that I always thought would be fun to make, and it sounds really tasty. A few more out there, lane cake. That was in the early 1900s. It was mentioned in the book To Kill a Mockingbird, and then it became the state cake for Alabama. So I think we'll get started with this, and I'll just show you a real quick mix together, and then we're going to bake it in 3 layers. And I've already greased all 3 of my cake pans. They are the same size, not the same color, but with a spray of ham with the flour for baking. That always works good for me. And then I'll just go over everything I'm putting together in the mixer. So first, we need 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And I like to, as I've said before, fluff up my flour, not pack it in. You just kind of drop it in until there's more in there than you need. Then take some sort of knife or whatever you have handy and just level that off. That's the closest way to make sure that you don't get more flour in your recipe than what you really need. So this is 2, and this is 3. So we're doing all the dry ingredients first, and then we'll mix in the wet ingredients next. Do the same thing with your sugar, just make sure it's flat so keep close. Now next, we have a teaspoon of table salt, they call it for. I don't really have table salt, and I always use kosher salt in my baking most normally, so we're going to go with that. A teaspoon of kosher salt. Next we have a teaspoon of baking soda, not powder, soda, of cinnamon, and then we're going to just let that come together for a couple seconds here. Okay, next is 3 large eggs. I just taught my oldest grandson a bit ago how to remember to crack your eggs and put them in a cup separately so you don't end up dropping what could possibly be a not good egg. Remembers every time. And then we have a cup and a half of vegetable oil or any mild oil that's pretty much flavorless. And then we have 1½ teaspoons of vanilla. And when I saw the price of vanilla the other day, I can't believe how much it went up in price. So I didn't buy that. I spent $8.99 on a. Then I ordered some vanilla beans, Madagascar vanilla beans, and bottles to make vanilla. It also takes vodka, or I think you can use rum. But it takes an alcohol also, so I got that, and that's going to be a video coming up this week that I'm going to do with my daughter. We're going to make homemade vanilla. We'll go over the prices of it all then, but you won't believe how cheap it is to make your own vanilla, including buying your bottles, glass bottles, and they have bales on the lid, so they're reusable. The next is an 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple with the juice. Don't drain it. And then we're going to go with 2 cups of chopped bananas, or about 4 bananas. And I'm using the same bananas I use for banana bread. Once they get this color, they're very good. There's a lot of flavor to them. That's what most people will make banana bread or banana cakes out of, so that's what we're going to use. Smells really good. Oh, it did take 5. So we got our 2 cups of banana going right in. So this recipe also calls for 1 cup of toasted chopped pecans, which I thought I had, and unfortunately I don't, because I think that would really make a big difference in this cake. You also toast them and put them on top of the frosting, but we're not going to be able to do that today, and that's okay, we'll do it next time. This is for our Memorial Day picnic tomorrow, and I want to get it done tonight so it's ready to go. Okay, so now we're going to turn our mixer on, and we're just going to mix the wet and the dry together until they're just mixed. Don't overbeat it, don't beat it for 2 minutes, don't beat it on high. Just let it mix together until, kind of like when you make muffins, until you don't see very much of the dry ingredient and everything seems to be blended. Okay, so we have all of our ingredients mixed together, and we're going to divide this batter up between 3 greased pans, and we're going to bake them at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to trying to even it out as much as I can. I'm going to do about a cup of batter into each one to start out, and then we'll see how much we have left. But they will all bake a lot better if you do have them approximately the same amount of batter in each pan. I ended up with 2 cups of batter between each pan, give or take a little bit, and then what left was still left in the cup. But then I'm going to just go back through with maybe, there might be 3 tablespoons of batter here. We're just going to divide it as evenly as we can by eye. And they're ready to go in the oven at 350. Okay, so for the frosting for this cake, while we're waiting for our cakes to come out of the oven, is 2 pounds of powdered sugar, one of the larger bags, not the smaller, it'll say 32 ounces on it, 1 cup of butter, and 2 room temperature, the butter is room temperature also, 2 room temperature packages, 8 ounces each of cream cheese, 2 teaspoons of the vanilla bean paste. And you want to start out on the lowest possible because it will spill a little bit of this out. It happens every time I make decorate birthday cakes and wedding cakes. It just starts out that way because of the paddle, but once you get going and things are mixed up pretty well, you can turn it up and whip it for about 3 minutes. Okay, we're done mixing. And that is a beautiful, fluffy, smooth frosting, and it's going to be good. It's cream cheese frosting with the butter and the vanilla. And when I get my cake frosted, I'm going to store it in the refrigerator overnight to help this cream cheese frosting firm up a little bit. That's what we want. But it turned out really smooth and creamy, and there's plenty enough in there to frost all 3 layers of the cake. So that'll be coming up next, and then put it in the fridge overnight. Take your previous plate, now that they've cooled, maybe 3/4 of a cup of icing on each cake. So it looks more like a cup or so. So there you have it. It's the 3-layer hummingbird cake from 1972 from Southern Living magazine. Always wanted to make it. Tomorrow we're going to eat it, and it just smells and tastes so good. The frosting I tasted is just really good. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. I'll put the recipe in the description, and hopefully you'll try this. We're going to try some other classic vintage cakes just to see how they turn out and what they were like. So please like my video and consider subscribing, and we'll do some more baking.